Day to the fantasy baseball season, and here's a few hitters on the rise this week. The first guy is Vlad Guerrero Jr. of the Toronto Blue Jays, and what a season here for Vlad. Last couple seasons since he's been in the majors, it's been a little bit of a disappointment for one of the top prospects in all of Major League Baseball a few seasons ago. But so far this season, this guy's on a total tear. 16 home runs, 41 RBIs, 333 batting average, a 443 on base percentage, and 38 runs scored. But in the last 2 weeks here, he's gone even crazier. Is Vlad Jr. 8 home runs, 15 RBIs, 13 runs scored, a 400 batting average, and a 474 on base. So right here, he got into better shape this offseason. He probably lost about 30 or 40 pounds, was Vlad Jr. And right now, it's paying big dividends here for the Toronto Blue Jays. And for fantasy owners, this guy, he was a all-hype prospect, and obviously the son of Hall of Famer Vladimir Guerrero. So they expected him to come out of the gate with huge numbers and a great batting average. And this season's been the breakout season for Vlad Jr. here in the last few games for him. May 23rd versus Tampa, 1 for 4. May 24th versus Tampa, 2 for 5 with 2 home runs and 3 RBIs. May 25th at the Yankees, 2 for 4 with a homer and 2 RBIs. And then yesterday at the Yankees in the doubleheader, he went 1 for 5 in that ball game. So right here now, Vlad and the Toronto Blue Jays, they go to Cleveland, and I expect Vlad to continue rising up the ranking board and continue to be up there in the league in home runs this season, as long as he keeps his focus and stays in good shape. Next hit is Austin Riley of the Atlanta Braves. I spoke about him a few times this week here is Riley. And Riley, he's another guy who was a former top prospect in all the major leagues a few seasons ago. And so far it was underwhelming for him the last couple of years, especially with the batting average. But so far this season, 10 home runs, 22 RBIs, 28 runs scored, a 313 batting average, and a 407 on base. And the last couple of weeks, though, he's got most of his numbers just here in the last 2 weeks span here. 7 home runs, 14 RBIs, 11 runs scored, a 395 batting average, and a 460 on base. So right now, he's been on a total hot streak here, is Austin Riley. But most of his damage over the last couple of weeks have been versus weak ball clubs, like the Pittsburgh Pirates he versed in 4. And even the New York Mets, he did a little damage as well to them, even though they're in first place right now. But I don't think that's going to last. But anyway, here, Austin Riley, he's going out there, he's hitting the baseball, and he's showing power, which the only thing I think's legit for him is the power. But right now, he's rising up the rankings, and he's a player I set to sell high this week, and I'll stand by it. But the last few games here for Riley, May 21st, 3 for 4, 2 home runs, 3 homers, 2 runs scored versus Pittsburgh. May 22nd versus Pittsburgh, 2 for 4 with an RBI. May 23rd versus Pittsburgh, 2 for 4 with 2 homers and 5 RBIs. May 25th at Boston, 0 for 4. Nights ago at Boston, 1 for 3 with a homer. So right now, he's on a power trip, hitting the baseball a lot over the fence and driving it. But right now, we'll see if it continues for Riley. But right now, he's rising up this week. The next hit is Mark Canha of the Oakland Athletics. So Canha, he's a player not many people probably had on their fantasy radar coming into the season here. But right now, he's going out there and putting up big numbers over the last few weeks and rising up the ranking boards is Canha. So Canha, he qualifies at first and second in fantasy baseball. And so far this season, it's been some weird numbers for him. 10 home runs, only 15 RBIs, 40 runs scored, which is up there with the Major League, 6 stolen bases, a 268 batting average, and a 400 on base percentage. And in the last 2 weeks here for Canha, 5 home runs, 6 RBIs, 375 batting average, a 500 on base, and 12 runs scored. So Canha, the reason the RBIs obviously are low, he bats first for this Oakland team. But right here to have 10 home runs as a leadoff hit is pretty impressive, even though nowadays things have changed in baseball and the landscape over the last couple decades. But Canha, he's going out there. He's definitely on a hot streak with the power, and 6 stolen bases as well, which is a rarity nowadays. Not many guys steal a lot of bases now. Well, May 22nd in Los Angeles, 2 for 3 with 2 runs. May 24th versus Seattle, 1 for 2 with a homer. May 25th versus Seattle, 1 for 5. May 26th versus Seattle, 0 for 2 with 2 runs. And then yesterday versus the Angels, 3 for 3. So Canha, he's hitting well. He's showing power, and he's definitely on the rise this week. The next hit is Rhys Hoskins of the Philadelphia Phillies. So Hoskins, he's been a weird fantasy player over the last few seasons. There's some weeks he goes off, and some weeks he can't even hit for 100 on a batting average. But so far this season, pretty solid numbers for Hoskins. 11 home runs, which already passed his total from last season in about the same amount of at-bats. 31 RBIs, 30 runs scored, 266 batting average, and a 341 on-base percentage. But Hoskins, the last 2 weeks, he's been on a hot streak. 3 home runs, 11 RBIs, 6 runs scored, a 372 batting average, and a 491 on base. So he's pretty much getting on base over the last couple weeks here, 50% of the time. And we'll see how long this hot streak will last. But he's doing it not just with the home runs, he's doing it with the batting average as well, which is a good thing to see. Maybe Hoskins this offseason, he adjusted his game a little and wants to be more of a consistent player that gets on base and gets base hits and not just home runs. So the last few games for Hoskins, May 23rd versus Boston, 1 for 3 with a run, RBI, and a stolen base. May 24th in Miami, 2 for 5 with an RBI. May 25th in Miami, 1 for 3 with a homer, 2 RBIs. May 26th in Miami, 1 for 2 with a rib. And then last night in Miami, 1 for 3 with a home run. So Hoskins, he's showing up. And now he's got a 7-game hitting streak going on as well. And we'll see if he can continue it. If he could just pile good games together like he has as Hoskins, he's a player that could finish this season in the top 50 in the fantasy baseball rankings and the 5th and final hitter on the rise this week here. Trey Mancini of the Baltimore Orioles. So Mancini, pretty much everyone knows the story. He had cancer last season, he beat it, and he came back this season here. And right now Mancini, he's having a great season so far. 11 home runs already, 42 RBIs, 30 runs scored. In the last couple weeks, he's been on a total tear. 4 home runs, 13 RBIs, a 364 batting average, a 481 on base, and 13 runs scored. So Mancini, he's driving the ball well. He's showing power, and he's had no ill effects, thankfully, after going through cancer over the last couple seasons. So right here, he was a big bat for this Baltimore team in the 2018 and 19 seasons. And then last season, he took off. And here, he's picking up where he left off, and I think he's even better. The batting average is higher than usual at the 278. And right here, this Baltimore team, they bat him second or third as pretty much their best hitter in this lineup. And it's good to see him performing. And fantasy owners who got him late in their drafts, it's paying big dividends right now with him up there in the leaderboard in the RBI category. So the last few games here for Mancini, May 23rd at Washington, 2 for 4, 2 RBIs, 2 runs scored. May 24th in Minnesota, 1 for 4 with a run. May 25th at Minnesota, 0 for 4. May 26th in Minnesota, 2 for 4 with a homer and 2 runs scored. And then yesterday versus Chicago, he didn't play, but Mancini, he's playing well. He's a little nicked up with a little bit of an injury with his elbow, but I think he's going to be fine. And he's rising up the ranking board. So that's a few hitters on the rise here in Week 8 of the fantasy baseball season.